Hello friends, today we'll talk about introduction to plant morphology. In this video, we will discuss about what is meant by morphology, what is meant by taxonomy, what are the levels at which the morphology is studied, and what are the importance of morphology in a different branches of plant sciences. So let's talk about what is meant by morphology. Now, morphology we can define as the study of external characters of an organism or the study of arbitrary characters or those characters which we can study or we can see by your naked eyes or by using 10x lens. That is called as morphology. If the organism is plant, that is called as plant morphology. If you are studying the animals, that is called as animal morphology. If you are studying bacteria, bacterial morphology, and so on. So that is the basic study which we can see or which we can study about the organism. Now this morphology is widely or you can say extensively used in the field of taxonomy. Now what is taxonomy? Now taxonomy includes, it is a branch of science which deals with the study of identification, classification and nomenclature of organisms. That is called as taxonomy. If you are studying a plant, it is called as plant taxonomy. If you are studying animal, animal taxonomy, bacterial taxonomy and so on. So this is about the morphology and the taxonomy. Now this morphology is studied at various levels. For example, it is studied at the two level called as descriptive morphology and the interpretative morphology. Now what is by descriptive morphology and interpretative morphology? We'll see one by one in detail. Now descriptive morphology, as name indicates, descriptive means we are describing the organisms, we are describing the external characteristics of organism. So in this descriptive morphology, we studied the forms and the structure of the organs or the organism. What are the characters externally shown by the organisms, that is only studied without considering its function, its origin or its phylogeny, from where it originates. We don't bother about what about its origin or what about its phylogeny. We only restricted to describe only descriptive morphology, whatever the external morphology or the external characters which are shown by the organisms. If you consider the plants, now the plants consist of different parts. For example, root, stem, leaf, inflorescence, flower, fruits and seeds. Now the characters which are shown by these plants or these parts, that only considered in the descriptive morphology, and in this way you can only describe the particular organisms. So that level is called as the descriptive morphology. Now what is meant by interpretative morphology? Now interpretative morphology is actually based on the morphology or called the descriptive morphology, but along with the descriptive morphology, in this interpretive morphology we have to interpret something. For example, we can determine its origin, we can determine its phylogeny on the basis of morphological characters. So we interpret the interrelationship between the two different taxa. If it is species, we can say that in between the two species, what are the correlation in between two genus, in between two families, or in between two we call as classes or divisions. So on the basis of morphological characters, we can interpret the interrelationship between the two different taxa, how it get originate, or what about the phylogeny, or what is the evolutionary trends in between those groups. So that is included under the interpretative morphology. So in this way, at this two level, the morphological study is carried on. Now this morphology having importance in a different allied branches of the plant sciences. What are they? Now the importance of morphology in the process of identification. Now you all of know that what is by identification. That identification it related with the identity of the individual. Every individual having its own morphological characteristics on their basis, it is identified. It is this identity. For example, the living organisms is grouped under certain categories. For example, animals, viruses, fungi, plants, humans, bacteria, and so on. So each group having its own identity, its own identical morphological characters, and that is its identity. If you consider plants and humans, the plants having the root, stem, leaf, flower, etc. While humans, they are having legs, hands, eyes, nose, ears, and so on. So presence of flower, presence of root, stem, leaf, these are the characteristics of plant group. None of the other group shows this type of characters. Means presence of these morphological characters is the identity of that particular group which you call the plant. In the same way, bacteria and animals and viruses are there. So on the basis of certain morphological characteristics, we can identify the particular group or a particular individual. If you consider the plant system, first of all, Theophrastus, who is also known as the father of botany, he divided the plants into three categories, namely herbs, shrubs, and trees. Now, what is the difference in between three groups, or what are the identity? What is the identity of these three groups? Now, the identity is related with its habit. If we talk about the herb, they are having a weak stem and they grow up to certain feet. Okay, so that are the two important characters to identify the herbs. Now, what are the shrubs? Shrubs is having somewhat woody stem, tough stem is there, and the branching pattern is start just above from the soil surface, due to which these plants appears as a bush, and that's why this nature is called as the shrub. While trees, they having a very strong woody or a tough stem. It grows in certain meters. So that is the characteristics of the trees. Branching pattern is also, it is extensively branched. So these are the characteristics of the trees. Now these morphological characters use the identity to a particular group, whether it is herb, shrub, or trees. So in this way, the morphological characters is responsible to give the identity, or it is responsible for the process of identification. In the same way, this morphology is also helpful in the process of nomenclature. Now, what is nomenclature? Nomenclature is nothing but to give the names to a particular organism. Okay, that is called as nomenclature. If you talk about the plants, one organization or we call it one association which is responsible to giving the name to a particular organisms, which we call as ICBN, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So this is the association which having its particular rules and regulation. According to this rules and regulation, we can give the name to the plants, and this nomenclature is based on a different morphological features. Various ways are there on the basis of which we can determine or we can use the name to a particular plant. For example, if you consider the origin of a plant, on the basis of origin, you can determine the name. Now consider this is Mangifera indica. So this is the botanical name of mango, where this Mangifera, it indicates the genus, while this indica, it indicates the species of this mango. Now here, this indica is specify its origin. Indica is means this species is originated from India. That's why the name is given Indica. So in this way, origin is responsible for the give the name to a particular plant. Or we can give the name on the basis of inventor, or who first of all describe or discovered that particular organism or the plant. On the basis of that, we can give the name. For example, Baunia purpurea. So this is the plant whose genus or generic name is depends on the inventor who first of all described it. That is Caspar Boeing. Boeing, on the basis of Boeing, the name of genus that is determined, that is Baunia. In the same way, on the basis of some stem characteristics, we can determine the nomenclature. For example, Polyanthus tuberosa and Solanum tuberosum. In both these two plants, this tuberosa and tuberosum, the name of species indicates the nature of stem. That is, the stem is tuberous in nature. Okay, so that's morphological characters. The tuberous nature of the stem that determines the name of the species of these two plants. That is Polyanthus tuberosa and the Solanum tuberosum. Again, on the basis of leaf characteristics, we can determine the name. For example, Ningo biloba. This biloba indicates the bilobed leaves. Ipomea palmata. Palmata, it means that the leaf structure, it is palm-like. Palm-like structure, that's why it is called as palmata. Polyalthia longifolia, it means the leaves are long. The leaves are long in shape. That's why it is called as Polyalthia longifolia. Or Rubia cordifolia. Cordifolia, it means the shape of the leaves, it is heart shape. Heart shape, that's why it is called as cordifolia. Gynandropis pentaphylla, it means there are 5 lobes. Pentaphylla, it means there are 5 lobes in the leaves. That's why the name is given pentaphylla. So in this way, the leaf character is also responsible for the nomenclature. Again, inflorescence is also responsible to give the particular name of the plant. For example, Asparagus racemosus. Racemosus, it means the inflorescence which is present in the plant, it is raceme type. Okay, that's why name is given racemosus. Flower characteristics, for example, Magnolia grandiflora. Now that grandiflora it is because of the flower is large. It is large in structure. That's why the name is given grandiflora. Or sometimes fruit characters are also responsible in the nomenclature. For example, Cassia fistula. Fistula, it means the fruits are pipe shaped in structure. That's why the name is given fistula. So in this way, the various morphological characters is responsible to give the name to that particular plant group. Now this morphology having importance in classification also. Classification is nothing but we have to categorize. We have to categorize a particular organisms in a different groups from where it belongs. So I'd like to know that the Carl Linnaeus, who is also known as the father of taxonomy, who gives a very famous system of classification which we call as the artificial system of plant classification. This system is also called as sexual system of classification. It is because of he divided the plants into the 24 classes, and in his division or in his classification he considered only one character, that is the staminal characters. Whatever the characters which is shown by a single stamen, that he considered and divided the plants into the 24 classes. So you can see staminal characters, he studied the morphological features of the stamens. What are the structure, what is the length, what is adhesion, what is cohesion, and on that basis he divided the plants into the 24 classes. Means he also considered the morphological characters for his classification. In the same way, we can divide the 2 important groups of the plants on the basis of presence of flower, whether the flower is present or it is absent. If the flower is present, that is included under the cryptogams, and if the plant, if it is not considered the flower, that is included under the cryptogams, and if it consists the flower, that is included under the phenograms. Means non-flowering plants are grouped under the cryptogams, Flowering plants, they are grouped under the phanerogams. In the same way, ovary characteristics, ovule characteristics are also responsible to divide the two different divisions. For example, angiosperms and the gymnosperms. So angiosperms where the ovules are naked. Sorry, the angiosperms, the ovules are what? They are enclosed inside the ovary. They are enclosed within a vessels. That's why it is called as angiosperms. While in gymnosperms, the ovules are what? They are naked in nature. So these characters is divided into different groups, that is angiosperms and the gymnosperms. In the same way, seed characters are also responsible to divide a certain groups. For example, dicotyledons and the monocotyledons. So dicotyledons where there are two cotyledons is present inside the seed, while in monocotyledons only one cotyledon is present inside the seed. So presence of number of cotyledons, it is also one of the morphological characters. So on that basis, we can divide the two classes. Okay, that is dicots and the monocots. So in this way, the morphology play an important role in the classification. In the same way, other characteristics also responsible for the classification. For example, the characters of the stem. Bulb, that is a one modified structure of the stem, which is called as a bulb. So, if the birds are present or they are clustered on a rootstock, that is present in the Allium sativum, while the birds are not clustered on the rootstock. It is present in the Allium cepa. So these two species of a genus Allium, they are categorized, they are divided on the basis of whether the birds are clustered or they are not clustered on the rootstock. So in this way, this morphological characters is responsible for the separation of two species from each other. In the same way, if we talk about the leaf characteristics, these two species, Azadirachta and the Melia, they are divided on the basis of the nature of the leaves. If we talk about the Azadirachta indica, in which the leaves are unipinnate, while in Melia Azadirachta they are bipinnately compound leaves. Okay, so this character is divided these two species. In the same way, the inflorescence characteristics are also responsible for the identification or for the classification. There are certain types of inflorescence on basis of which there are certain families. There are certain families which having a particular or their peculiar characteristics regarding the inflorescence. For example, the cythium inflorescence, that is the characteristics of the family Euphorbiaceae. The presence of verticillaster inflorescence, that is the characteristic feature of the family Lamiaceae or Liabaceae. Hypanthodium is of Moraceae. Capitulum or head is of Asteraceae, or we call it Compositae. Umbel inflorescence, that is of Apiaceae or Umbelliferae. So these inflorescences are restricted to that particular family only. So that means this type of inflorescence is responsible to classify the plant in a particular family. They are restricted only to that family only. So in this way, the classification is done on the basis of morphological characteristics. Again, this morphology is responsible for the process of phylogeny. Phylogeny is nothing but we can determine the evolutionary sequence, the origin or the interrelationship between the different groups or different taxa. So that is called as the phylogeny. Now how this plant group originate from one another. So there are different groups. If you talk about the plant kingdom, they are divided into different groups. For example, algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm and the angiosperms. Now each group is having some interrelationship. They are having certain similar characteristics, and on that basis we can determine the evolutionary trends in these 5 groups. We can say that the bryophytes are evolved from algae, pteridophytes from bryophytes, gymnosperm from pteridophytes and the angiosperm from the gymnosperms. It is only because all these groups having certain interrelationship characteristics in between two. If you consider the gymnosperms and the angiosperms, in both groups one common characteristics, the advanced gymnosperms, for example, Netum, they show a certain characteristics which is resembles with the angiosperms. For example, the venation pattern, dicotyledonous nature, and the reticulate venation. That is the characteristic which are the angiosperms, which is shown by a certain group of gymnosperms. Means that characteristic is present in between these two groups. So on that basis, we can easily determine their origin or the interrelationship, or we can determine the evolutionary trends in between these all groups. So in this way, the morphological characters are responsible for the or to determine the phylogeny. In the same way, the morphology play an important role in plant breeding. Plant breeding, it is related with the agriculture. So in agriculture or in plant breeding, in this branch, we produce the hybrid varieties. Now, what are the basis? What is the basis to produce a new variety? Here also, the morphology play an important role. To produce a good variety, we have to select first of all the male and female parents. Male parents should have a good morphological characteristics. Female parents should have a good morphological characteristics, and on that basis only we can cross this male and female plant and produce a new variety. So the production of new variety, it is because of to obtain the high yielding variety, disease resistant varieties, a good horticultural varieties or good floriculture variety. So these varieties we can make by selecting a good male and female parents, and that is also here also we consider the morphological characters as a base. So in this way, the morphology play an important role in a plant breeding also. So this is about somewhat introductory remarks about the morphology. Thank you.